What I'd like to share next is the evidence behind my claim that Trump is engaged in a criminal enterprise. I call it Trump Criminal Enterprise, Inc. And I began this post by saying that I'm amused when MAGAs brag, as they do, that Congress is being paid to do nothing, while Trump signs executive orders without their support, thereby doing everything for free. But what they miss is that the presidential salary of $400,000 is chump change compared to the $16 billion Trump and company have recently received from the Islamic dictators. The Trump organizations, owned and managed by Donald and Eric Trump, struck a $5.5 billion deal to build a resort in Qatar, the Bank of Islamic Terror. Now, that is despite the obvious conflict of interest of a president shaping U.S. policy for personal financial gain. It's probably impeachable. This deal brought the known Islamic funding of the president, his private businesses, and his family to $16 billion and rapidly growing. And that's only what has been disclosed, nothing that has gone into undisclosed bank accounts. That is ever so slightly more than the $220,000 that Libya's Muammar Gaddafi paid Billy Beer founder Billy Carter, or the $20 million each that Bush and Obama received from the Saudis for their contributions to the kingdom after they left office. Quote, "We are incredibly proud to expand the Trump brand into Qatar through this exceptional collaboration with Qatari DR and Dar Global," a spokesman for the family business exclaimed. End quote. In addition to Saudi partner Dar Global, the planned resort of the Qatari capital of Doha will be developed by a Qatari company called Qatari DR, which is owned by the Qatari government, also known as the Emir of Qatar, Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, the chairman of the Bank of Islamic Terrorism and of anti-Semitism worldwide. As for Dar Global, it is owned by Dar Al Arkan Real Estate Development, and it's founded and owned by the Saudi royal family, with institutional investors owning about 5%, like Vanguard, BlackRock, UBS, Northern Trust, State Street, and Teachers Annuity Association, collectively controlling 10% of the company. After U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he would be visiting Qatar during his Middle East trip, many wondered why he chose to stop at the Islamic country most closely identified with funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and the anti-Israel agenda and protests on college campuses and streets worldwide, all while ignoring American allies such as Israel, even Egypt and Turkey. But now we know. It's just business. Ironically, or more accurately, hypocritically, illegally, and immorally, the deal in Qatar was announced while the president was going after Qatari funding of the Ivy League universities in the United States, which encouraged anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli protests to take place on their campuses after the Hamas massacre of October 7th and the ensuing war. Turns out progressive liberals in academia are exceedingly easy to bribe. They refer to such things as grants. Now, this wasn't the first or the last of its kind. It follows many other deals made before Trump was sworn in, including one for a golf resort in Vietnam late last year with a firm with ties to the Communist Party. Trump's son-in-law, business partner, and White House political negotiator Jared Kushner received $2 billion directly from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman through his sovereign wealth fund, known as the PIF, despite having no experience in private equity investing. No experience in private equity investing, and yet he was given $2 billion to start a private equity firm. He received the transfer of this $2 billion within 6 months of leaving the White House. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who serves as the chairman of the Public Investment Fund and is its owner, personally intervened to approve the investment and overruled the panel of advisors who called the sum unsatisfactory in all respects. Kushner developed a close relationship with MBS while he served as White House advisor during Donald Trump's first presidency, helping to approve the $110 billion weapons sale to the kingdom after it faced public backlash for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, which the Department of National Intelligence later reported was directed by the Crown Prince himself. But Kushner and Trump took care of that little problem for MBS, denying the evidence and then raising MBS's worldwide profile and esteem. Bribes matter. Around the same time, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia also invested $1 billion in Liberty Strategic Capital, a private equity firm set up by former Secretary Steve Mnuchin after Trump left office. Thereafter, Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, received a $623 million investment to bail him out of the failed purchase and management of the Park Lane Hotel in New York City. It was funded by the Qatari Investment Authority, the fiefdom's sovereign wealth fund, a month before the Qataris sponsored the Hamas terrorist raid in Israel. 1 month prior. Showing his appreciation in his first official act, Witkoff demanded to see Netanyahu on the Shabat and told the Israeli prime minister that Trump expected Israel to capitulate to the ceasefire on his and Qatari terms. The concerns the prime minister had previously told Trump were life and death issues for Israel's survival were no longer of any concern to the president, Witkoff stated. Then, right on cue, Hamas sponsor and advocate, Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani credited Witkoff in a speech announcing the deal, albeit one usurped by Trump's earlier proclamation that an epic ceasefire had been reached. Yes, when the financiers of Islamic terror and of Hamas tell you that the deal happened because Witkoff did as they demanded, you know you have a problem. But there's more. Because after winning a second term, Trump received funding in excess of $3.5 billion for a soaring Trump Tower in the Saudi capital of Riyadh, of which Trump is superfluous, of course, other than the influence acquired. Trump isn't providing any of the finance. It's all coming from Saudi Arabia. He isn't providing the land. Saudi Arabia. He isn't providing the construction company. Saudi Arabia. He is not providing the architects. Saudi Arabia. He is not managing the building. Saudi Arabia. All Trump is doing is getting money and having his name put on the top and the bottom of a splashy new building, which plays to his ego as well as to his pocketbook. Now, there is another Trump Tower and resort being built and funded in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where the Trump Grand Edifice will be gilded in glittering gold. The Trump-branded Oman project is valued at $4 billion in the United Arab Emirates, and they are all being managed and constructed by Dar Global, meaning that Trump isn't the builder, the management company, or the financier, just the beneficiary of the funds and prestige. Now, if that wasn't already overtly gluttonous, then the Trump Organization announced the launch of the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Dubai, the capital of the United Arab Emirates. During the planning phase, Donald Trump stated, "When I look at the potential sites for real estate investment, I concentrate on location, location, location. And this is the best location not only in Dubai, but in the whole of the Middle East," except he's not buying it. He's being bought. There is no correlation, but in addition to landing Air Force One in Saudi Arabia to visit with MBS, Trump is flying off to his new BFF and business partner in Doha, Qatar, after meeting with the Emir Sheikh Tamim Al Thani. Then on May 15th, the Trump dollar train will arrive in Abu Dhabi and meet with Emirati dictator Mohammed bin Zayed. Ain't that swell? Now, following the remarkable success of the Trump International Oman, this is a quote, "As well as our most recent ventures in Dubai and Jeddah, we are thrilled to announce 2 additional properties in Riyadh," Eric Trump, president's son, who oversees the company's real estate interest, said. Think of that. This is Eric Trump announcing at the same time that Trump is flying to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, to the Emirates, and saying, following the success of Trump International Oman, as well as our most recent ventures in Dubai and Jeddah, we are thrilled to announce 2 additional projects in Riyadh, the capital city, the resort city of those nations that are most opposed to Israel. But talk of conflict of interest, talk about bribes. This is the most egregious series of events that have ever stained the White House of the United States. Philanderer and thief. Eric Trump, the president's son who oversees the company's real estate investments, said that the Dubai Tower of narcissism, he didn't actually say that. This is what he says, is going to be called the Trump. It's going to cost over $1 billion. And it's going to feature, affordable housing with $20 million apartments. They are, according to the Donald, inspired by Trump's tower's gold-plated residence in New York City. And Bitcoin has now been listed as an acceptable form of payment, along, of course, with the Trump cryptocurrency. It is a flagrant, deplorable, criminal, and likely impeachable act. And I would not care if it were not for the fact that Trump plans to give the heart of Israel to Saudi's crown prince as part of his deal of the millennia. Every action of President Trump reflects the will of those pulling his strings, which includes appointing Witkoff Middle East advisor, forcing Israel to capitulate to Qatar's and Hamas's terms on the previous ceasefire and hostage exchange for Hamas terrorists, the promise of Saudi and Qatari resorts in Gaza, the construction of emerald cities for Fakistinians in the Sinai and Jordan, but not, of course, in Saudi Arabia, which is the natural place for them. Conducting a charade of ceasefire negotiations to end the Ukrainian proxy war with Russia in Saudi Arabia, of all places, without even inviting the Russians or Ukrainian representatives. Preventing Israel from destroying Iran's nuclear bomb facilities, and then spilling the story of how he interfered to the New York Times. Negotiating a meaningless deal with Iran for uranium enrichment after they have already enriched their uranium, and doing so bypassing Israel. Firing National Security Advisor Mike Waltz because he supported Israel's right to defend itself from Iranian annihilation. Telling Israel to bomb the Houthis and then forming a truce with them that expressly excluded Israel, all based on a deal proposed by the United Arab Emirates that just leave, cruise away in the aircraft carriers, and the Houthis won't fire at the aircraft carriers that aren't there. They'll continue to fire at Israel, but that's what we all want, isn't it? Announcing the first presidential trip will be to visit his investors, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, excluding Israel. Announcing that Israel has frustrated him by continuing the war he claimed he would end, such that Israel is being excluded from the American deal of the millennia. And 13, after complaining that the Gazans are suffering, Trump stated that he's going to feed those who are committed to the obliteration of Israel as part of the greatest deal ever done, but exclude Israel from that process. Of course, this could all just be this colossal coincidence, and the price tag of 16 billion large and a fancy airplane could all just be unrelated. Or not. Well, my expectation now is that the pro-Israel protesters on X, that I have warned that this is coming, will finally listen. And that was pro-Israeli posters, not protesters on X, because I have warned them of this emphatically now for 6 months. America First, as a news agency, an independent source on X with 200,000 followers, just reported President Trump has cut contact with Netanyahu, slamming the Israeli prime minister and his allies for acting arrogantly while trying to push him around. Trump reportedly feels disrespected and manipulated by Netanyahu, which the Magites will interpret as grounds to hate and besmirch Netanyahu and justify whatever Trump decides to do with Israel. And while it has everything to do with Trump and his ego and nothing to do with Netanyahu, Trump is not only abandoning Israel, he is offering to sacrifice Israel to Saudi Arabia to salvage the petrodollar and perpetuate the illusion of U.S. solvency while lining his pockets with billions and billions and billions.